All right, everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about Eastern Orthodox Christians who actually collaborated with the Nazis to murder Catholics. This was happening in Belarus when the Nazis conquered Belarus and took it from the Soviets. A huge chunk of Belarus was actually given to the Poles after the Polish-Soviet conflict, and the western half of Belarus was given over to Poland. And the Nazis took Belarus from the Soviets during the Second World War, and there were Belarusians who would collaborate with the Nazis to have uh, members of the Polish anti-Nazi resistance killed. And these Belarusian nationalists, they would also target Polish Catholic priests because they saw the priests, the Catholic priests, as enemies of their nationalistic cause for an independent Belarus. This is something new that I learned today. Uh, During the Second World War, a lot of Polish people and Belarusians absolutely hated each other. I mean, they hated each other in a very vicious and just vitriolic way. Like, there was some serious hatred between these two people. And it's pretty disturbing. But I've been reading about this in this book, Poland's Holocaust by Tadeusz Petrovsky. This book is going to be a source for numerous videos to come. And as you can already tell, if you look at my channel, numerous videos have already been made based off of the information in this book. This is what I do. I read a book from beginning to end, and I do video commentary on the things that I learn as I continue to read the book. So there's a section here that talks about this, and it says here, among the collaborators were some members of the Orthodox clergy who betrayed Catholic priests and nuns because they saw in the Polish church not only a threat to their own faith, but also a stumbling block to Belarusian post-war independence. And then it says here, in November 1941, several Polish Catholic priests were shot, including a missionary, Father Henryk Hlebowicz. So were Fathers Dionysy Malec and Stanislaw Hlakusi, both Belarusian Catholic priests. So it wasn't just Polish Catholic priests who were denounced by the Belarusians to the Gestapo, but it was also Belarusian Catholic priests who were murdered by their fellow Belarusians. So it goes on to talk about this Belarusian Catholic priest who was murdered by his own people, and his name was Father Hlakusi. And it says here that he was a well-known pre-war Belarusian patriot in Vilno, and in 1941 even published a badly needed Belarusian catechism in the language of his people. So this priest was not betraying his people. He was Belarusian. He wasn't Polish. He was a patriot. And still, Belarusian nationalists turned him over to the Nazis. The book goes on to say that the Nazi purges of Polish intellectuals began in 1942. In the fall of that year, 84 Poles were shot in Slonin, and by war's end, in Slonin and the surrounding vicinity, 1,000 had been dismissed from their jobs, due in part to Belarusian denunciations, and replaced by Belarusians. In Novogrodek, several dozen Poles, including several priests, were shot on July 31st, 1942, and Poles were often betrayed by Belarusians and removed from work. So then it says here that similar incidents occurred in the Wilejica region, where over 100 Poles were executed in the summer of 1942. It says here, under orders from the Germans, committees of the White Russian Welfare Society, White Russian being Belarusians, because Belarusian literally means White Russian. So committees of the White Russian Welfare Society had been compiling and keeping up to date lists of names of the more prominent Poles and even of White Russian Catholics, Belarusian Catholics, submitting them to the secret police, who in their turn, on the slightest provocation, transferred certain names from these to other lists, on which names were replaced by numbers given to those who were to be executed. So there you have it. There were Belarusians, supposed Christians, who did not mind having the Nazis murder other Christians. These were Belarusian nationalists who had a face of Eastern Orthodoxy, and they would have Polish Catholics murdered, and they would also have Belarusian Catholics murdered because they hated Catholics. There are several things that I want to say about this. One, this historical reality really flies into the face of the racist narrative that if we just have one body of white people, one society of just white people, then we'll be a very peaceful society. But yet there are so many historical examples where you have people who are all white, they speak similar languages, or they speak the same language, and this definitely was the case in the 1990s, when the Serbs and the Bosnians were killing each other, and the Croats and the Serbs were killing each other, and they speak the same language. And you have people who look alike, right? They're all white, they look similar. And in this case, you have people who are all Slavic, and they have this Slavic affinity, and they share this Slavic ancestry, and they may even consider themselves Slavic brothers. We see this all the time on YouTube. Come on, don't act like you don't see it. On every single Slavic song on YouTube, you'll have at least a dozen comments. Slavic brothers, yes, Naroda, whatever. And so they all look alike, they all have Slavic ancestry, and yet they still kill each other. These Belarusian nationalists, they didn't care that a particular Belarusian Catholic was a fellow Belarusian. They didn't care. They did not care that they were reporting a fellow Belarusian to the Nazis. That didn't bother them. They just didn't like the fact that this particular person was Catholic. So it's not really about race. A lot of people will sit here and say, oh, if we just had this pure race, if we just had a society of this particular race, if we just balkanize the country, and this one really, really gets on my nerves, if we just balkanize the country, then that would just make everything better. Yeah, sure. Look at the Balkans today. There still isn't peace between Balkan countries. But if we just could have, blacks live with blacks and whites live with whites, then we would have peace. But here we have a situation where you have two neighboring countries, Belarus and Poland. They are right next to each other. They speak similar languages. They are both Slavic. And they're still murdering each other. Still killing each other. Belarusian murdering Pole. Belarusian murdering Belarusian because they're Catholic. There is, there's a lot of Pharisaism in religion. And I know some of you may be surprised that I would say that, because I have a long history of doing videos on religion. But it is the truth. And one thing that I am interested in is the truth. At least I try my best to be. And there is a lot of Pharisaism in religion. A lot of people are Pharisees. When Jesus said, those of you who don't have sin, those of you who have not sinned, cast the first stone, there are many people who would cast the first stone. There are many people who are ever willing to throw that stone. And I did a video not too long ago about the spirit of the Pharisee and how it leads to destruction. And I used the example of Polish Catholics during the Holocaust who were willing to save Jewish children from the Nazi German death camps. And the Orthodox leadership, the Jewish Orthodox leadership, intervened and objected and said, well, if we allow these Polish Catholics to rescue these Jewish kids, then they're going to try to convert these kids to Catholicism. So they chose to have these kids be at the mercy of the Nazis. I mean, they would rather have their kids be killed by the Nazis than be saved by Catholics. And that is an example of the spirit of the Pharisee. But that spirit of the Pharisee also exists amongst Christians. And I have seen it amongst trad Catholics, trad cats as I call them, and I have seen it amongst some Orthodox people, Eastern Orthodox Christians, especially amongst North Americans who convert to Eastern Orthodoxy. They have, certainly this is not the case for all of them, but I have noticed a weird trend where North Americans, by North Americans I mean people from the US and Canada, I've seen this phenomena where North Americans will convert to Eastern Orthodoxy and they become absolutely vicious against anyone who is not Eastern Orthodox. And they have almost a special hatred for Catholics. And not too long ago, I debated an American convert to Eastern Orthodoxy, and you can watch it in my channel. Just look up debate Orthodox. You'll find it. And this guy was a complete lunatic. He was a complete lunatic. He was fun to debate with, but he was a lunatic. And he could never really see any sort of obvious reality that I was presenting to him. For example, he kept talking about how I needed to understand the energy essence doctrine or something like that. And he said that I needed to understand this in order to be able to recognize evil. And I asked him a simple question. I said, are you pro-life? And, well, yeah, I'm pro-life. Okay, I'm also pro-life. So how did we come to the same conclusion? I don't understand this concept that you're referring to, but yet I understand that abortion is evil. So what are you talking about? And he couldn't just acknowledge, like, hey, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm wrong about something there. You can't... There's a saying that I heard. You can tell a zealot, but you can't tell him much. In other words, you can easily recognize a fanatic, but you really can't tell a fanatic anything. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.